Welcome to this special championship episode of the VYPEU podcast. I'm Will Turboff. Ella Hestand is with me, and we are going to break down three of this week's games, the 5A D1 game and the 6A D1 and 6A D2. Ella, how excited are you for the next few days?
I'm really excited. There's a bunch of great games happening. I think it's a really epic ending to the high school football season, and it's been a really fun season to watch and a lot of upsets, a lot of crazy games happening, and I feel like it's a really good way to close it out.
Yeah, we get to close it out in the biggest stadium in the country at AT&T Stadium, and we have a bunch of great teams. We've got the quarterback from VYPEU, Cj Dumas, so we'll show that interview in just a second, and we'll actually start off previewing that game, 5A D1, where VYPEU, for the first time in their school history, they've only had a varsity team since 2018. It's the fourth year. They're going to take on College Station. VYPEU put up 73 points in the semifinal round last week, and they haven't really had any challenges. Right, Ella?
Yeah, they really just flown through the playoffs pretty easily. They've had some decent competition in Hightower. I feel like that was one of the best games, their lowest scoring game in the playoffs. But I think so far, I don't think they've faced a really, really tough team for them. And I think it'll be really interesting to see them against this College Station team because they've just been going through fairly easily.
Yeah, we don't want to put down the teams that VYPEU has beaten, but I mean, 73-14 in the state semifinals, you just don't see that. On the other hand, it hasn't been as easy for College Station, and maybe they've played tougher teams. I mean, in the last 3 weeks, they've had to play Wakeland, who beat a Highland Park team that many thought would be in this game. And then they beat Denton Ryan, who, again, people thought might be in this game. And then Mansfield Summit last week, another team that was set to be in that state semifinal. They beat all three of them. They're relatively close games, 10 points, 7 points, I believe last week was 6. So, we're looking at two fairly new teams that aren't historic, like the Alitos or the Highland Parks or the Manvilles that we always see in 5A. College Station has been here before. They went in, I believe, 2017. VYPEU has not. Fourth year in the program. Ella, I'm going to start off with this question. I was mentioning Highland Park. I was mentioning Alito. There's generally a team from the DFW area in 5A D1. This year's there's not. They're relatively close to us, too. Do you think this is the most fair game from an environmental standpoint because neither team is close to, where the school is?
Probably because you have that crowd factor that does play a big part. And I feel like the teams in DFW that are close to AT&T Stadium, they typically will have a slightly bigger turnout at those games. And the crowd energy and the number really does have some sort of impact on the energy of the entire game. And I think it's more fair to both of these teams that they're having to travel farther to AT&T Stadium and that they've played in the same area. So they're familiar with where they're at now and are both having to go to this unfamiliar place. So I think it's really interesting to see them at this kind of equal point. However, it's AT&T Stadium, so it's a different place for both of them. The College Station has been there before.
College Station has been there before, and it hasn't been a lot of time. This is only Coach Huff's 8th season on the job. He's taken him for the second time in 5 years. That's really impressive. So I'm going to ask you this now. College Station has had to go through, as we've said, really tough teams, and they have not been, blowouts like VYPEU's been in. Who do you think has more momentum going into this game?
I think it just depends on the perspective you look at it. I think VYPEU has had a lot of momentum because they're beating their opponents by large margins, which doesn't typically happen this late in playoffs. And I think that definitely builds their confidence and their momentum going into this game. But there's also College Station, who has had to play those tough games, who's had to really earn the games that they've played, and they've truly proved that they're supposed to be in this game. VYPEU has proved that as well, definitely. But I think College Station has gone through a tougher journey to do so. So I'm leaning towards a College Station team, even though they might be more tired just because of the victories that they've had to pull out.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Cj Dumas says in our interview in just a minute. But I would imagine, this is a team that hasn't, blown through the entire competition all season. They lost a game. They've had that mix of being down, they've been down, I believe, in some other games too, and then using that to kind of propel them into the playoffs all the way here. You think at some point that's going to let up. It hasn't really. So it may just be that momentum all the way from their loss, which was about 2 months ago now, and nothing since then. So we would talk about this game being level. College Station undefeated this season. Pato lost a game. College Station's had to, grind through the toughest teams in 5A. Not so much on Pato's side. This is going to be great. So Ella, let's go ahead and pick it.
I feel like this is going to be a very good game. I think Pato is going to see the best competition they've seen all year, probably. But I'm still going to have to go with Pato because they've got a lot of energy. They're a great team. They've just shown up all season. While College Station is definitely undefeated still, Pato's also there's something very special about that team. And I think that they're going to use what they have with them right now to win this state championship game and take home their first program championship.
I am also going to go with Pato. When we think about it, this is the first class that Pato has who came into the school with a varsity team and will lead the school with a varsity team. There were, graduating classes of 2020, but when they came, there wasn't even a varsity team. So this is really something else that Pato has done in a short amount of time. I'm going to take them to win this game, but I think this may be the best game that we see on Friday or Saturday. So now we've said that, let's hand it over to my interview with Cj Dumas. It is state championship week, and there is no better time to be joined than a possible state champion. He'll be at AT&T Stadium this week. Welcome on, Cj Dumas of Katy Pato.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on, CJ. You have had an incredible year. You've had an incredible career at Pato. We were just talking a minute ago about you being the second class to go through Pato all the way through 9th and 10th graders in 2017. And then you come in as a freshman in 2018, 3-year varsity quarterback. In that time, you have 4,566 yards and 63 touchdowns, and that's in just 36 games. Talk to me about coming into a program that was so young and taking over at such a young age as a sophomore.
Well, I mean, it was just a great opportunity to be able to kind of set a standard for, not only, the quarterbacks, the young group of quarterbacks that we have coming up in Pato, but, the team as a whole. Being a captain for 2 years, that was one of my, roles to, be a leader within the program. So, I made sure to take a lot of, the younger guys under my wing. So, it was just a great opportunity to be able to kind of build a culture that was already, starting to be built, but just, kind of finish that off.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and this is just the 4th year of varsity football at Pato. You're the first guy to, where there was a varsity team as a freshman, and now you're about to graduate. What do you think the biggest challenges were for you guys pretty early on?
I mean, I know one thing starting off was, fan support, not saying that, we didn't have fan support to start off with. But I know a lot of the times, it was kind of just, parents and, a few students, but, now just kind of seeing how we've grown so much, just kind of, we bring, large crowds to, games that are, out of our city. So, it's just, that was one of those things that, it was kind of crazy seeing how we've grown in that aspect. And, being one of the quarterbacks that kind of started this thing off, me along with Harrison Sager, the quarterback before me, kind of just building that culture. There weren't any seniors. I mean, well, in my case there were, but for a lot of these guys, there weren't any seniors to look up to. The 2020 class was, they were the first seniors to go through Pato. So just kind of creating that culture was kind of a struggle at first, but I feel like we've definitely done a great job of doing that so far.
Yeah, I like how you brought up fan support, because Katie's got 2 huge stadiums. You've got Legacy, you've got Rhodes, and when you see Katie, Tompkins, a Taylor, something like that, drawing these huge crowds every week, and you as a new team not doing the same, it's got to be really tough. But now we're 3 years out, and you've become what I would say the third most popular program in KDISD. Why do you think it took such a short time for you to become a powerhouse in this district, or not the district, but in the school district, and then eventually what we'll see next year in 6A?
I mean, I feel like it definitely comes down to, the great coaching staff we have here at Payto. It's they've definitely set, a standard of excellence. That's kind of one of the, phrases we have here, just kind of going hard every practice, every play, every snap to, whenever you get into the games, these big games that, like the one we're about to play, everything kind of just slows down for us. So, I definitely feel like, our coaching staff has done a great job. And then, we've us as, players have kind of bought in to the culture that, Coach Gott has been trying to create here. So, it's just kind of a mixture of, a great coaching, and then, players that buy in and, come every day working hard, showing up early for film, staying late to, go over, whether it's special teams or, extra plays for offense or, schemes or defense. It's just the little stuff that we've been buying into since, 8th grade.
Yeah, obviously you've bought in. There's a lot of guys on this team that have bought in 100%. When you're thinking about, playing your last game this weekend, and that's it for Payto, you'll never put that jersey on again.
Yeah.
What do you think your legacy will be for this program?
Well, I mean, that's something that, I haven't really thought into too much, but, I feel like, I hope at least that, it's a good one. I'm really close with a lot of these underclassmen and, a lot of the, younger kids at the school. So, I hope that I kind of just showed them what hard work can, get you, and whether it's football or just in life in general. If you work hard at something and, you come every day and just, you grind and, you give it your all, you're going to be successful. And, I just hope that I kind of helped, push those kids to, work hard, whether it's, raining or whether, you don't want to come out, it's just working hard no matter what.
Yeah, when I was preparing for this, I was kind of trying to compare you to someone else. And I was thinking Kyron Jones from Shadow Creek, or maybe even Jalen Milrow from
Right.
Katie Tompkins. But there's really no one that has come in, seen a program very low from the start, and turned it into something, almost an undefeated season this year, a great season last year. So, and the main thing was that you chose to play for Payto in a district where you could have gone to a whole lot other schools, maybe had more eyes on you. Do you think it would have been easier to go to one of those other schools?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it would be easier. I mean, I definitely feel like there were some challenges that I faced at Payto going into this that, I don't think I would have faced at, at a school that's been, going for, a few years. So, but I truly wouldn't trade the path that I took to get to this point for anything. The brotherhood that, I've made, and, the mentors I've met through my coaches. It's a great culture here at Pizza. So I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Yeah. And when we talked at the VYPE preseason photo shoot, I remember you guys talking about one thing specific. You talked about it before the interview and during. You had a really tough end to the season last year. It ended with a COVID outbreak. How did that affect the team mentally, going through that entire offseason program, knowing that something that was basically out of your control ended your season?
Yeah, I mean, I just I remember it was the first practice after, they had us, get mass tested, and I had came back positive that day. And I just remember, I felt like I let my team down, even though it's something that was out of my control. It was just, a terrible feeling to, that I couldn't go out there and, ball out with my brothers, especially for those seniors that I've grown so close with, Damon, Goomba, Randall, like Harrison, Jameen, all those Panthers before me. So, it's just I kind of use that to like fuel us during off season to make sure that, now that COVID's kind of died down, that, we can prove to everybody what we could have done last year. Cause I truly feel like we could have made a run deep in the playoffs last year. And, this is just kind of proving it to people that, last year, if COVID wouldn't have taken us out, I feel like we would have been one of those teams that would have shocked a lot of people. And I feel like that's what we're doing right now. So it just kind of fueled us. That's kind of one of the sayings that we have, unfinished business. It's that we're the job's not done yet. We still have one more game to win, but I feel like we've definitely um woken a lot of people up, outside of our little area.
Yeah, well, we did dozens of interviews like that in the span of a couple of weeks there, and every single team tells you we're going to Jerry World this year. We're going to do it, and when you guys come in, it's you actually end up doing it. You guys are just a few days away from playing there. And there's much bigger teams in your district. You have Hightower and you have Manville. So you come in and you blow out Hightower, and then the next week you face another setback and you lose to Manville. How did that change the whole dynamic of the team? Because up to that point, you guys were looking just about perfect, and then you take a loss. How did that change things in the locker room?
Yeah, well, I mean, coming off of that big Hightower win, I know our coach he kept harping on it. Last week was last week, and people are only going to remember you based off of your last game. So, going into Manville, none of that mattered if none of the stuff that happened in Hightower mattered if we didn't go out there and win against Manville. But I do feel like it was definitely important for us to have a game like that before playoffs started, being able to face some adversity. And Manville's a great team. They have some great players that are going far, as far as D1 scholarship goes. So it's it was I kind of viewed it as a learning experience rather than we lost, we're not gonna have a perfect season. We kind of used it as kind of fuel to the fire, kind of adding on to the fuel from last year. It's kind of hey, I kind of felt like people kind of thought that we were a fluke, because Manville was one of those teams. They were the top dog in our district. So that was one of those teams that we kind of wanted to go out there and beat. But losing to them kind of showed us that hey, you're going to lose some games, but as long as you fight, we're going to be successful.
Well, you haven't had too many setbacks since then. Just in the playoffs, you're outscoring your opponents 285-62. I had to double check on that because there's some dominant teams in the playoffs right now. I'm not sure anyone's doing something like that. How do you explain that, having more dominance in the playoffs than you did at some point in the regular season?
I mean, well, I feel like as the season goes on, a lot of teams kind of see like a decline in, like speed and, physicality as far as, like the wear and tear of, the season. And I feel like the way we go about our practices, we go hard every single day. And that kind of makes the game slow down for us. And, not a lot of teams can go 4 quarters with, a team that's, driving off the ball every play for 4 quarters. So, I feel like as teams kind of decline as the season goes on, we kind of our energy and our tempo kind of picks up almost in a way. So I feel like that's kind of where we're getting a lot of our advantages from, just kind of staying true to what we do and not changing anything up for no matter the scale of the game.
Yeah, well, you guys have no one's been able to hang with you in the playoffs so far. You put up 73 points last week, and I don't think anyone else did that. So we've been trying to stay on this season and the team as a whole, but I wanted to talk about your recruitment a little bit because you let out some big news in the past few weeks as you've decided to decommit from Prairie View A&M. Why do that so late in the game? I mean, we're on the week of early signing day. Why did you feel like this was the right move?
Well, I mean, there are some coaching changes that kind of shook some things up with Prairie View. I still really really love the program. The coaching staff. I really appreciate what them taking a chance on me. It's just the coaching changes kind of made me feel uneasy, and I was always told to trust your gut when it comes to this type of stuff. So I feel like that was the best decision for me. Just kind of step back and kind of reevaluate some of my options.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to give me the inside scoop on who's looking at you right now, but are there some other programs that you believe are interested in and may give you an offer late?
Well, I mean, I know most of my offers still stand from before my commitment to Prairie View. So Drake University up in Iowa, that's another D1 that I have an offer from, and then I have a lot of D3s that Washington and Lee University, Middlebury, Trinity. Just those are like a couple of the D3s. But as far as D1 goes, I've talked to a couple schools, A&M Commerce, down here near Dallas, Lehigh University up in Pennsylvania. So those are just kind of a couple, but I'm kind of focusing on winning this championship right now. I feel like God's got me as far as recruitment goes, so I try not to worry about that too much right now. Just making sure I finish the season out with the ring.
Well, you'll have the most eyes that you've ever had on you in your life this week against College Station. And like I said, you told me in June that you would be at AT&T Stadium. Now that you're there, can you tell me why you're going to win?
I mean, I truly feel like where a lot of teams don't realize what they're getting themselves into until they step on the field with us. We focus a lot on complementary football. Just firing on all cylinders in all three phases of the game. Offense, defense, and special teams. And I feel like last game was a really good example of that. Whenever our offense, like the run game and the passing game, is firing on all cylinders, it's kind of hard to stop, because I know a lot of teams tried to load the box and stop our run game, because we have a great two backs in Jacob Brown and Demarion Phillips. But I feel like a lot of teams don't realize that when you do that, you're leaving playmakers like, Cole Wilson, Jason Blue, a lot of our receivers, just open on or in one-on-one coverage. And I feel like a lot of teams are realizing that, you can't guard receiver. Really mainly like Cole, like you can't guard him one-on-one. So, I feel like that's one of those things they're going to have trouble stopping our offense, because we're very multiple. And then as far as our defense goes, their players kind of spoken for themselves recently. They've been stopping, some really powerful offenses, with Hightower being, the offense that they are, and for them to consistently hold them, over and over again. It's just, I feel like we're a very balanced team as far as, the three phases goes.
Well, you're balanced in that every single unit is incredible. And that's going to do it. We will be watching you this weekend in the state championship game. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope to catch up with you soon, hopefully with a ring on your finger.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, CJ, once again for coming on. He's got a huge game this weekend, and we wish him the best of luck. What a great career from him. And now we will hand it over to 6A, where we've got two of the same matchups from 2019, the first of which, 6A D1. Ella, we have seen this game 3 times since we've been in high school, Duncanville and North Shore. How wild is that?
I think it's crazy. I don't think you see that happen very often. There's usually some sort of variation in those games, but these are two teams that just continue to get there. And I think when you're talking about like recency, this might be one of the biggest rivalries in high school football in 6A because of how many times they've faced each other. And I love that this game is happening again, because this is always a really fun game to watch.
Yeah, you want to talk about how crazy it is. Not only that these are the two teams that make it to the championship game, but neither one of them made it last year. So we go 2 years with this game, neither one of them make it, and then both of them are back. Duncanville lost a game this year, top team in the country. We've been over this. People were down on them. North Shore, we've been over the same thing. They lost to Westfield. People were down on them. And yet they have dominated ever since then. Really, nobody has been a challenge to either one of these teams all year. We see Atascocita coming within 10, but in the playoffs, North Shore has looked great. Duncanville's done the same thing. I mean, both these are the two best one-loss teams in the state, I would say. And they've done it by kind of toying with their teams, right, Ella?
Definitely. These teams, I feel like every team kind of goes in and underestimates them a little bit, but also kind of is like, they're this big powerhouse. But I think a lot of teams say they're not as good as they used to be, when they really are, and they might be better than they've ever been, per se. And I think they definitely just play around with their competition and they make it to this game easily.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, or scary at least, to say that North Shore and Duncanville are better than they've ever been. But you could definitely make a case for it. Both these teams have standout freshmen. Caleb Bailey is the starting quarterback for North Shore. I know I say that just about every week, but man, that is ridiculous to be playing for 6AD1 championship as a freshman. On the other side, Decorian Moore, all the recruiting people rave about this guy, wide receiver, one of the top offensive talents on this Duncanville team. So they keep retooling. They keep making sure that they have the best weapons, and they have done it well. I mean, this is the third time in 4 years. So is this the end of an era, or will we just keep seeing this matchup as long as Coach K and Coach Samples are at those schools?
I honestly don't see this matchup going anywhere. Considering that these teams 2 years ago, you've definitely seen some talent kind of cycle through. Like, very few of the starters from those teams are still the starters on these teams. And I think that you just see that this talent continues to come in and these teams continue to be good. And they're definitely the two front runners in 6AD1, and they have been for the past few years. And I don't think that's going anywhere, because at least while these coaches are there, because they've proven that they know how to train these talent and make them top tier players throughout their entire career in high school. And so if they continue to do that, Duncanville and North Shore are not going anywhere in the state championship game.
I'd have to agree with you. We saw Demetrius Davis in the first two of these. We've seen Duncanville with a number of different quarterbacks over the last couple of years. But now, like we've said, they have two talents that will graduate in 2025. So that's 3 more years that these guys will be playing. I think these coaches have done an incredible job of making sure that the talent that they have are leaders to the guys below them. You want to talk about Caleb Bailey? He was in middle school when Demetrius Davis was there. So now he has been thrown into the spotlight, and he will do that likely for someone else. And I think as long as these coaches are here, they'll just continue to develop talent, continue to develop a winning culture. But we want to focus on this game, but this is really something that we haven't seen in decades from two teams like this. And 3 years ago, we probably had the greatest state championship game of our lifetime, Ella, when Demetrius Davis threw that Hail Mary, won the game. Do you think this game is going to be as dramatic as that one, or will it be maybe a little bit less high scoring or more of, a point differential? Talk to me about that.
I feel like historically most state games are very close games. And I think several in the past few years have actually come down to one of those last few plays. And I don't think this game is necessarily going to be any different. I don't know if we're talking a Hail Mary ending again, because I don't see that happening honestly, but this game is going to be a nail biter. This game is going to depend on a lot of crowd energy and how big of a crowd North Shore can bring, which they typically are always really excited come state championships time. And I think it's going to be a very interesting game, but I don't see it being a large differential. It's going to be a close game. I think it could be high scoring, but both of these defenses are very disciplined, so it could be low scoring. I don't know what to predict here, but I just know that this is going to be a very intense game for both of these teams.
We already talked about the home field advantage aspect in these games. If you're a DFW person, you will get your money's worth on Saturday. South Oak Cliff in the 5AD2, Duncanville in 6AD1, and then Geyer, which we'll talk about in just a minute, in 6AD2. So it's probably not as level as that game we just talked about from a fan standpoint, but North Shore, like you said, brings people out, even if they aren't fans of the school. You want to see that team. I'm not quite sure it'll be as dramatic. I think that one team is really going to capitalize on mistakes of others, because, as they've faced all these great teams over the playoffs, they've still been dominating. When we talk about these dominating teams, sometimes there's things that they kind of forget about when you're playing the top teams in the state. So I think one of these teams, and I'll pick in just a minute, is going to capitalize on the other. So Ella, go ahead and pick this game for me.
There's a lot of young talent on both sides of this ball, but I think with a freshman quarterback on North Shore's side, I feel like when you're that young and you're thrown into AT&T Stadium, where I've been on the field 2 times during a state championship game at AT&T Stadium, and it is very intense. It's very nerve-wracking just to be like a watcher of the game. So I can't even imagine what's like actually playing it. And I feel like that's a lot of pressure on him, and he's dealt with the pressure really well this entire season. But I think Duncanville is going to be able to kind of use that. If he has any kind of nerves, they'll be able to kind of force mistakes for him. So for that reason, I think I'm going to pick Duncanville. But North Shore has had a phenomenal season, and I wouldn't be surprised if Bailey is able to just come out guns blazing and just win this game. But because of his youth and because of the way he's supposed to be the leader for this team, I think Duncanville is going to win this one.
Yeah, you kind of hit it spot on of what I was talking about, that as Caleb Bailey has been getting better, they've been winning games by more and more every single week. When you look at Duncanville's defense, I saw what they did against Spring a few weeks ago. I've seen what they did against DeSoto, and man, when you talk about Owen Allen and Caden Anderson at South Lake Carroll, for that offense to be thwarted in a state semifinal game was insane. We thought that game maybe could have been high scoring. It was a blowout. All the games last week were a blowout, but maybe nothing as surprising as that. I think Duncanville's going to win this game, and you know, as great as North Shore is, I'm pretty confident about it as well. But wow, what a graduating class that North Shore has this year. Ty Leonard, Chris Ross, who's headed to Texas, Denver Harris, who will announce his commitment after the game. So like we've said, on and on, the talent at these schools is ridiculous, and it will continue to get even better over the next few years. And we head to our last game of the Texas high school football season. We saw it in 2019. Westlake and Denton Geyer. Ella, here's a crazy stat. Jackson Arnold, the quarterback for Geyer, played in the game in 2019. They had Eli Stowers at the time as well. Cade Klubnik did not play in that game. Arnold was just a freshman at the time. Klubnik was a sophomore. Obviously, he was a full-time starter after that. Both these guys were. This is Coach Todd Dodge's last game as the Westlake head coach. It'll be his last game ever. He is retiring. If he wins this one, it'll be his 40th straight and his 7th championship. That's 4 with South Lake Carroll and 2 heading on 3 for Westlake. What can you say about Coach Dodge's run right here?
It's incredibly impressive. There are not many high school football coaches that can say that they've won 6 championships and are hopefully looking at for their 7th. And he's had an incredible career. He is one of the biggest names, I feel like, in the DFW area because of his time with South Lake Carroll, and he's made a name for himself in the Austin area and in all of Texas, to be honest. And I think Coach Dodge has had a great career, and he's definitely impacted so many athletes.
Yeah, I feel like this show would not be complete without a little Coach Dodge appreciation. You know, he's kind of done it all. He developed Chase Daniel, his son, Riley Dodge, who is now the head coach, South Lake Carroll. He went to North Texas. When things didn't work out there, he decided to go back to the high school level. He took over a historic Westlake program and has made them even more historic. He's developed some of the greatest talent that we've seen kind of come out of Austin in the past few decades. And, you know, a three-peat at this level is unheard of. So congratulations to him on a great career. Always appreciate the hospitality over there. And, you know, just what a great guy. So now we head back into this game a little bit. Geyer has home field advantage, 33 miles away from AT&T Stadium. How will that affect this game?
I feel like we've touched on it already a little bit, that the crowd turnout really does play a role in how this game goes, at least from a little bit of an aspect, because of the energy that they bring. I feel like the energy of the crowd affects the energy of the players. And I think Geyer, because they're so close, this is just like a normal kind of travel for them in a way. And it's not that big of a distance for them to go, whereas Westlake is having to come from the Austin area, and they're having to travel to this game, and it's after finals week and everything. So I think depending on the crowd turnout, Geyer might have the advantage coming into this game because of their proximity to AT&T Stadium.
I'm actually going to have to disagree with you. I don't think, you know, I think we'll have about a level crowd right here. Westlake might as well be one of those one school towns, because Westlake Hills is big in itself, and they have the greatest fan support out of, you know, at least in that town. Most 6A schools, they show out at every game, rain or shine. I think Geyer will bring a big crowd. We'll have a lot of neutral fans in this game after a long weekend. But but Westlake is definitely going to show out. So Westlake, we've already mentioned, going for a third straight. If they win this game, does their dynasty kind of overtake what we've seen in the last few years with Aledo, with Duncanville, with North Shore? Where does it rank there, or is it kind of at the top, Ella?
When you're talking about a three-peat, which really you don't see that often, when you're talking about a three-peat, they're definitely at least on par with Aledo, Duncanville, North Shore. They're definitely at least on the same level, and they might even be a little bit higher because of the talent that they've historically had. And this dynasty is very just great. I feel like that's the biggest word to use, is they're just a great team, and they always have been. And I think that if they pull off this three-peat, they might be a little bit better dynasty-wise than your Aledos, your Duncanvilles, your North Shores, but they're definitely on par with them right now.
Yeah, we don't really like to compare on here, but when you're getting into this territory with a team that is not only there, but winning every single time, you have to. And Aledo's done what, 6 out of 7, 6 out of 8. And we were just talking about what Duncanville and North Shore has done over the last few years. But, to come into Westlake a few years ago and them go, but not always win. And now they're winning every single time. So it's just been continued dominance. Like we said, 40th straight win. If they can do it, I believe they're 39 right now. And Ella, there's going to be a lot of star power in this game. Who is the standout? Offensive, defensive, maybe special teams. Who do you see in this game really taking over?
I really see Cade Klubnik and Jack Kaiser really coming out strong this game. They've proven themselves this entire season. Their playoff performances have been phenomenal, and they are just two players that the opposing defenses really have a tough time with. So I don't see that changing, even though this is the state championship game and Geyer is definitely a great team. I don't see them putting a big stop to Klubnik and Kaiser, and I think they're going to dominate offensively.
Yeah, you got my pick is Kaiser. Kaiser comes in middle of the season as a sophomore. When you have a quarterback like Cade Klubnik, you don't think you're going to be running a lot, but a lot of the time Westlake is up by 40, 50, and Kaiser gets the ball, and he has done just about as much as you can at this point. As much carries as he's getting. It's 6 touchdowns in the game that I saw him. I don't know if he'll have just as much as that, but he'll definitely get a good amount of yardage and a couple scores in this game. I think, it's either him or Klubnik as the offensive player of the game. But we've seen Westlake over the last couple of years have really, star performances in this game, develop guys that have become household names. Klubnik's one of them. Michael Taft is the other. Taft's at UT. Klubnik will be at Clemson. So these guys, they're taking them to the next level, and they're hometown heroes. It's one of these great stories of just like, the state game really develops stars, and that's what we've seen the last few years at all levels, but especially with this team. So I think Kaiser is the next to be on that list. And I think, Ella, you already maybe said who you think is going to win this game, but go ahead and tell me who you've got between Westlake and Geyer.
I think Geyer's really going to want to prevent the three-peat from happening, but I think this game is just going to be so special for Westlake because it's going to be Coach Dodge's last. It could be their 40th straight win. It could be their 3rd consecutive championship. There's a lot riding on this game for them, and I don't think they're going to crack under that pressure because they've been top-tier talent for the past few years. And I think when you have Klubnik and Kaiser on the offense, like you said, they're just unstoppable. And I don't see that changing this game. I see them winning this. Geyer has had a great season, but Westlake is just, this team this year, this game is something very special for them.
Yeah, let's give it to Geyer because they were not a team that I was even thinking about as being in this game. As great as they were in the regular season, you look at let's go back to the first round. Cy Park maybe being a favorite on that half, and then Tomball, and then Bridgeland. It was just like, what team can we make the favorite here? And it wasn't until late on that we thought Geyer was. Jackson Arnold has done something special in a really short amount of time. He still has another year left to go. This is the last ride for Cade Klubnik. He wants to win this game. He's going to give it his all, and it's going to take his all. I think Westlake wins this one, 3rd straight, Coach Dodge's last game, a storybook ending for one of the greatest coaches in the history of Texas high school football, and the end of an era for Westlake. But they'll keep going. We know that. They'll reload just like all these teams do, and it will be the end to the Texas high school football season. Any final takeaways from this season? You know, this is our last episode as the season goes on. So anything you want to leave the viewers with?
I feel like one of the biggest things we've learned this season is to never underestimate any kind of team, because anyone can make it. Most of the teams that have made it deep into the playoffs, I don't think we really predicted to happen. And there's just a lot that can happen in a game. And there are a bunch of factors that go into it. And it's just always be ready for anyone to win. That's kind of where I'm at with it. Football is really an unpredictable sport. And you can guess and you can try and choose who you think will win, but it's really in the hands of those players. And it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, I was talking to someone a few days ago. It's funny how we had all these upsets through the year, and we had, crazy things in the playoffs. We saw that round where 6 or 7 state champions from last year went down, and somehow we end up with the two same games from 2019 in 6A. Westlake, Geyer, Duncanville, North Shore, last 4 in 6A. That'll do it for the 2021 Texas high school football season from the VYPE podcast. Joined by Ella Hestan. We want to thank Ashton Lux for coming on all season. I'm Will Turboff. We'll see you when we see you.